Welcome back to ETO. Paul, I did not sleep last night.
You're too excited.
Honestly, I was too excited. This is one of the topics that I might be the most excited to discuss, and I'm glad that we're getting into it here in our investing mini-series. Today, we're going to be discussing real estate investing.
For sure.
And all of the ways that is such a unique vehicle to invest in. Yeah, it kind of is, honestly. And we're going to get into all of that. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to our investing overview last week. Again, we're getting text messages, tweets. We're getting a lot of really good feedback, and we do appreciate that. So make sure you check out our Linktree link in our description so you can hit us up on all of our platforms.
Get us everywhere.
Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. One-stop shop. Click that link. Go follow us. Leave some comments, some likes. We do appreciate the love. And
appreciate the feedback.
Yeah, the feedback's great. Yeah. We had someone actually message me yesterday asking about some future podcast ideas that they would like us to discuss. So really cool stuff. And thanks to the tens and tens of views that we had on the first couple of podcasts. You guys may notice we got some new lighting in the studio down here in HQ today. So if we look a little prettier than usual, it's the lights. It's not us.
Yeah, it's just the lights.
No, but seriously, thank you again so much for the support. And we're going to dive right in here, Paul. So real estate investing, okay? Why is it?
Well, first,
make
sure everyone knows.
Yep, wait a minute.
We're not financial advisors. We're not.
We are not financial
advisors.
We're
just talking to you guys about the things that we're interested in, things that we're trying to do.
This is
and
not
if you also feel like
financial
it's something
advice.
that you want to do, go ahead and do it.
I hate saying that, but we have to. I mean, world we live in. But that's another podcast. Here we go. So why is real estate so unique of an investing vehicle?
What makes it the unicorn?
Yeah.
So what makes real estate investing the unicorn of investing, to me at least, it's the cash flow that you can actually get from your investment, right? You know, any investment that you make, you can make money off of it, but you make money off of it when you get rid of that asset.
When you sell it, yeah.
Right? And it could be anything. It could be stocks. It could be collectibles. It could be, a Michael Jordan rookie basketball card's worth more in 20 years than it was today. Things appreciate as they go, but you're not making money off of it. They're not going to cash flow until you get rid of the asset. Real estate's different. Real estate, it can bring you money while also appreciating.
Yeah.
And that to me is what makes it the unicorn.
Yeah. And last week, I made the comment, and a lot of people actually reached out and said that they like this point too, but I made the comment that your money in your savings account is dead. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that, to reiterate, is it just doesn't bring any returns, which, I mean, it's still there. The money's still there, but it's not, that money's not making you money.
No.
If you take that money out of your savings account and you put it into real estate investing, not only do you get the appreciation, which is the equity when you do sell eventually, if you ever sell, but you also, like you were saying, you get that monthly cash flow. So I put, let's just say whatever, last week I used $50,000. So I put that $50,000 into real estate, and let's say cash flow is $200 a month. Where last week, again, I was saying, you might get 2 cents of a return off that $50,000 sitting there. So what do you want, Paul? You want 2 cents or $200 a month?
I'll take the $200 a month.
Money sitting there in the asset in the property, or it's sitting there in the account. The difference is 2 cents or 200 or whatever the numbers are. It's not anywhere near the same.
No.
Way more return in real estate investing. So that's why it's kind of unique, right? It cash flows, but it also appreciates. And what that does, the cash flow, to put it in sense of like working a job, the cash flow replaces or kind of simulates your income.
That paycheck that you get every 2 weeks.
And the equity, whenever you sell, kind of replaces or simulates the money that you've put into your retirement account. And, a lot of people, they put back into a 401k or IRA, whatever. People are relying on their pension or Social Security or something. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with those things. We're going to talk about those things down the road, but
they're important. It's diversifying. They're important.
But the equity piece that you get in your home, which, by the way, other people are paying to build that equity for you, while they're also paying you cash flow, that's pretty tough to beat, in my opinion. That's pretty tough to beat. So, so I talked about other types of retirement plans and stuff like that, but you can grow your equity, you can grow your cash flow. And here's the thing too, it goes beyond your lifetime. So like, let's say I put money into a 401k and, whatever, I retire, I cash out my 401k. Eventually that amount of money, however much it is, will run out.
Yep.
A pension, when I pass, that pension goes away or whatever, Social Security, when I die, that money goes away. If I'm invested in real estate it provides cash flow and appreciating equity in perpetuity, forever. I mean,
as long as you have it.
Yeah, exactly. As long as you own it, it's because history tells us that it's going to continue to go up.
Right.
And we're going to get into that too, the history of real estate and rental property, investment property, but it provides value to future generations.
Right. Not just for you, but for your kids.
After I'm gone.
Kids even.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing says you have to sell it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nothing says you ever have to sell it. That anyone ever has to sell it. You can hold on to that thing and cash flow forever.
Pretty much forever, yeah.
Forever.
Yeah, I mean, literally. So I know, Paul, you kind of dove a little bit into, what passive income is and the difference.
And kind of you talked about, using it, I guess, a comparison to a job, right?
Yeah.
The income from your tenants is your paycheck. That's your income that's coming in. And then the equity is like the retirement, right? So it's also comparing like passive income versus active income, right? And like passive income from cash flow of having this property can offset and sometimes even surpass the active labor from your income. So you could even get to a point where your investment properties are paying you more than the time you're spending to actively work.
And that's kind of a good benchmark. So, you want to know if your investments are doing well. That's kind of a good benchmark. If your returns from your real estate investments are providing more monthly income than you're making from your work at your job, it's a good benchmark.
Right. You're doing pretty good.
You're doing all right. And I'm not telling you to stop there either, because we're never done.
No.
We're never done, but that's a good benchmark. I want my returns to make more money than I make. And then I'm going to readdress kind of my goals and create some new ones.
Right.
But that's kind of my first
Double
goal.
down.
Yeah. My first goal for me personally is I want my returns to make more money than I do. As soon as my returns are the breadwinner in my relationship with my investments, then I know that I've met my first goal and it's time to make some new ones.
I think that is to me, the baseline definition of financial freedom. We've used that phrase a lot in our first few podcasts here, and I think that is financial freedom. In the event, your job that you have goes away, and sometimes it's within your control, sometimes it's not. You still have that freedom. You still have the ability to continue living your life because of the investments that you've made.
Yeah. There's with any investment, like we mentioned last week, there's natural risk that comes along with it, a lot of fear of the unknown. But you brought up a point that I'm going to let you expound on, and then I'm going to give my take on it as well.
For sure. I think, everyone's afraid of it because I'm not a real estate investor. I'm a fireman or whatever your job is, right? That's who you are. I'm not a real estate investor. Did you buy a home? Do you own the house that you live in, or are you paying a bank for the house that you're living in? Yeah. Right. If you are,
that's not a bad thing. We're going to get into that.
No. You're a real estate investor to an extent, right?
Yeah.
You've at least got some skin in the game. You have a house. Now what you're doing is you're using the money you make from your job to pay your mortgage. It's not paying you to live there, right? Yeah. But you've at least invested into a home that eventually could be the retirement aspect that we talk about, right? Yeah. You're building up your equity, so you've already started.
Yeah,
it's just what's the next step?
Yeah, right? Yeah. And you are right. I mean, you are invested because you're building your equity. When you become a homeowner, you're building your equity. You're investing in your home that eventually, when you sell, there will be a return back to you. Absolutely, and appreciation will help improve that equity. So. That you're right, but let's go farther than that. Let's go further down the road, and let's talk about, okay, you're a homeowner now and you're building your equity, but I don't want to just make equity,
right?
Because I can just make equity in other things too. But real estate is unique, and I want to use it for everything it's worth.
Right, and I think that's everything that we're going to talk about here.
I want to get
that next level.
How do I get to that cash flow
level? Right.
I want to get that cash flow. Equity is great, and I want that too. But just owning my own home isn't going to cash flow. So I'm gonna get equity and cash flow. And like I said, we're about to get into it here. So the first thing before you invest in real estate, you've got to love the deal.
Right.
Like that. First things first, you've got to love the deal. You got to drive by the deal. You got to drive the community. You got to know the small businesses, the streets, the schools. You've got to know the feel and the vibe of where you're going to be investing, and would you yourself want to live there?
Right.
And what kind of tenant can you expect is going to live there? Is it going to be, college students, or is it going to be, an established family of 5, or, is it going to be some high school kids who are just trying to get out of mom and dad's house? What kind of tenant are you going to have, and what does that mean for your investment?
Well, and is the property close to, like around here, Toyota's not far, Amazon right down the road.
Yeah.
Is your property close to one of those places that you're going to be able to rely on somebody's going to rent from me that works there?
And has a job, and a good paying job. So like you said, there's Amazon is really close to us. Amazon pretty much owns a city where we live really close to, and Amazon, the people that work there have job security. Mm-hmm. Amazon ain't going nowhere,
no,
and they also get paid a pretty decent wage. So that means that if I know that people live in that city, they work there at Amazon, I know that they're going to make a pretty decent paycheck. They're going to be there for a long time because they have job security, and that means that they can pay me rent in that city for a long time.
Right.
So that's a very good assessment, and that's a good way to evaluate and know and do your homework about the deal that you want to buy.
Well, and that's where it's so important to do your homework, right? I think because another risk that people talk about is, getting into a bad deal. I know somebody who bought a house and it was a rental property and it was a bad deal.
Well,
and
the statistics say we all know somebody that did that.
Right.
Because I read this interesting report that said, and I don't know how exactly accurate, there might be some deviation here, but it's still staggering, even if this number's close.
Right.
That out of all the people who have ever got into a real estate investment deal, 57% of those people do not do a second deal. It's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. And why is that, right? Are they had so much success they couldn't handle it anymore and they got out of the game?
Probably not it.
No, they up.
Right.
Because they didn't do their homework. They didn't love the
good deal.
Yeah, they didn't love the deal. They didn't drive the communities. All of these things. I don't know. But their first deal went bad.
Right.
So they never did it again. Your first deal is crucial. Make it a good one. And you're going to make it a good one by driving the deal. Love the deal. Do your homework on the deal. First thing first. If you don't love the deal and you wouldn't live there,
chances are somebody else is not going to want to live there either.
There you go.
Now, what kind of opportunities are there, though? I think that's important to talk about because, for me, for instance, I've only really been interested and researching in investment properties and investing in real estate for a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I knew what kind of properties are out there, but I had never thought about it, really done a deep dive. All right, what are types of properties that you could buy?
Yeah, well, so I mean, the thing that probably most people think about are just the single family homes,
right?
Yeah, the home that you live in, the home that I live in, they're single family homes, a 1-unit house. But then beyond that, there's multifamily deals, which I know you and I are really high on right now. And that basically, for those of you who don't know, a multifamily deal is 2, 3, or 4 units. And then when you get above 4 units, it turns into a commercial property. Mm-hmm. Your loan type changes, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of an overview: single family, multifamily, and then commercial. And what should you invest in? I'm not going to tell you what to invest in, but I can tell you that right now, out of all the single family homes that are out there in the world, or not in the world, excuse me, but in America, more specifically, all of the single family homes that are out there, roughly half of those single family homes are rented.
It's mind-boggling.
It is. And I mean, those numbers, if you Google that too, there's some deviation in the numbers, whatever, a couple million here, a couple million there. There's so many of them,
right.
But I mean, it's roughly 50%, give or take, of the homes of single family homes in America are rented. Now let's add in the multifamily properties. Right. Let's add in apartments and condos. And what does that percentage goes way up from 50. Yep. So the amount of actual livable where people in this country live is more than 50% of those places are rented, which means that there's a large opportunity for us to be the people that own those properties, right, and for us to get a piece of that pie,
right,
and get into this whole real estate investment game. A lot of opportunity out there. Now I know there's some risk. Like we talked about, there's risk in every investment.
Right.
So what's a risk, Paul? What's a risk of real estate
I think the one that makes, that people think of the most, that makes the most sense when I'm thinking about this would be not having a tenant. Like if I have a place that's going unrented, right? There's no one in it, I'm having to foot the bill. And I think that's why we're both so bullish, if I can use that word, bullish, excited about the concept of multifamily properties, is because you have multiple units. Say you have a quad, say you got a 4-unit property, and you have one of those units that's not being rented out. Well, the other 3 still are.
Exactly.
So you literally have enough occupancy
Yeah.
there that's paying for your the expenses, paying the mortgage,
Even with
and
one
then you're
vacant
probably
unit,
still
yeah.
cash flowing.
Yeah.
Even with one vacancy, right? Where if it's a single family home, you don't have a tenant. Like, yeah, you have nothing. You have nothing coming in, and then that can get a little more dicey.
And that's exactly right. You have one single family rental property and it's vacant. You're responsible to pay that bill. So multifamilies we like, but also too, I mean, if you're a single family person, that's what you want to invest in, like get more than one.
Not a thing, exactly.
Get more
not
than
a thing
one.
wrong getting in single family, but it might help you to have more than one and kind of protect yourself a little bit.
Yeah, because if nothing else, even if you aren't cash flowing each month, hopefully single family number 2 pays the debt on single family number 1,
Right.
and you're not upside down and owe 2 bills on that. So volume, I mean, kind of by definition, is how you scale your real estate investing. And it also is how you protect yourself and insulate yourself from the risk of not having tenants.
Right.
More volume. So yeah, I mean, that's our mindset. Some people might fight us on that, but I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves, and the logic I think is there too. So,
I'd say something crazy that you brought up. I didn't realize what the average cost of rent was in America right now.
Dude, it's crazy. Yeah.
It blew my mind.
Yeah.
That the average rent right now in America is almost $1,200.
Yeah.
It's $1,175 to be specific.
Yeah.
Like, that blew my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I would have never thought that it was that high. And also that it has gone up nearly 9% every year since 1980.
Year over year.
Every
rents are going up.
Year.
Which should tell you right there. Like, okay, so one thing, this might be a different podcast. Is that necessarily good? Because wage increases, people's pay increases are not going up 9% year over year. So, I mean, that's a different podcast. But I can tell you this right now. What side do you want to be on?
Right.
I can tell you this right now. I want to be on the side of the person who's making that 9% extra each year by being the owner of these properties. That's where I want to be. I mean, because it's happening.
I think if everyone's being honest, that's the side they would want to be on too. Do you want to be on the side that doesn't make 9%, or do you want to be on the side that makes 9%?
It's pretty simple stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's
on the side that makes more money.
Yeah, I want to be on the side that makes more money, and we're not going to change. That's history. I mean, that's the last 40 years of history. Like it's already happened. This is what's happening. So I'm going to get on the right side of history here, and I'm going to make that 9% year over year rental increase income. Absolutely, that's what I'm going to do. But it's one of those things where I think we're going to actually put a graph up here. This is going to be the most informative. I can talk to you all about it, but look at this graph that we're talking about really quickly, because
sometimes you need to see it. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts, like, make sure you check us out on YouTube so you can see this graph.
Yeah, this is really important. It really paints the picture, honestly, because this is a graph of average rental income in America from 1940 to today, roughly. I think it's a couple years old, but back in 1940, the average rental cost was $27 a month.
$27.
And now it's shade under $1,200. So I mean, one thing, what does that show you? I mean, obviously prices have gone up on everything since 1940. That's no surprise. But this graph shows you the trajectory of rentals. Do you see any slowdown in this, Paul? There's no slowdown in this.
Well, and it's also, it's a reliable trend because this is over the last 70 years or whatever, 80 years. Yeah. This isn't over a 2-year span. Like this is
and look at
long progression. Like this is real.
Yeah. This is not a small sample size. And like, look here too, because a lot of questions I get to when it comes to real estate, anything is like, oh, the real estate crashing, 07, 08, whatever. Look at that time frame on the graph, 2008, 9, 10. Look at that. There's a little small dip, but then it shoots right back up and keeps on climbing. So this is 2008 real estate market collapse really did not impact rentals at all.
So what?
Not really.
What's the difference between 2008 and 2022?
I mean, that's a deep question. There's a lot, and we're going to probably talk about this on another episode at some point. Yeah. But long story short, lenders are different now. They have different guidelines and parameters to which they're lending money. They're not just giving money to anybody anymore. Adjustable rate mortgages, like were so prevalent back then, are not such a thing anymore. Mm-hmm. So like adjustable rate mortgages, people could afford their mortgage until it adjusted and then they couldn't.
Right.
So I mean, those are not so prevalent anymore for sure. But then also, like, people that are getting loans now are actually qualified and able to pay them back. Mm-hmm. And before, I mean, man, you could, the old HGTV thing. I'm an underwater basket weaver. I'm approved for $1 million.
Right.
That's the most 2007, 8 thing, in the world. But now, lenders have stricter guidelines that they have to adhere to. So I do not think, I'm not a real estate expert, but I do not think that we're anything close to the 2007, 8, collapse. I don't think that we're anywhere near that. We'll talk about that on another podcast, but we're very different.
It sounds to me like they're kind of safety nets built in now that necessarily didn't exist in 2008 or 2007, 2008.
Exactly. What we're seeing in the real estate market right now, long story short, again, real estate is a complex thing. It's intertwined in the world economy, but supply and demand right now, there's not a lot of inventory, so prices are going up.
Right.
But we'll get more into that on another episode as well. So, why don't more people invest in real estate? Well, I feel like we're giving a lot of good reasons why you should, Paul.
Right.
So like,
why aren't people doing it?
Why aren't people doing it?
I think in large part they don't know where to get started with the money. Right. They don't know where to get started. They don't know how to get the money. You think like, that's
a good point.
Rental property down there's worth $200,000. I don't have $200,000. Guess I'm out of luck. And if you went to the bank and you're like, hey, I want to buy this rental property. And to do that, you're going to have to put down 25%. So going back to that $200,000 property, like you're going to have to put $50,000 down to buy that if you're buying it outright. But there are ways to even the odds, beat the system, whatever you want to call it, that I really wish I was aware of in my early 20s. Between 20 and 25, I wish I had known. This is advice that I wish I could go back and tell fresh out of college me, like, look, this is something you need to do right now. Don't wait. Do it right now. Jump in.
What's some of those ways? Like, I know we've talked about them, but
right. So you can get into loans like FHA, Veterans VA loans, USDA loans. They all require that to be your primary residence, but you have to put substantially less money down.
Yeah.
Right. And as an investment property, you have to put 25% down. For some of those loans, it's 3% or even 0% down for some of those loans to get into those properties.
There's common misconceptions on this. So I'm pretty familiar with the VA loan process at this point. My wife and I've had three VA loans already. So we're pretty familiar with the process, but if you just Google, can I use a VA loan for an investment property? The first response is probably going to say no,
right?
But that's wrong. You absolutely can, but you have to be selective in what you are purchasing.
And that's where you have to be smart about, kind of house hacking, I think is the phrase that everyone uses. You buying a multifamily home.
Bingo.
Or a multifamily property, I guess I should say, living in one of those units and renting the other ones out. You use your VA loan or whatever kind of loan it is that you get with your interest level if you're moving in, live in one of them and rent the other 3 out. They're basically you're making money to live.
Yeah,
you're making money to live there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean that's a great way to say it. And one thing that we talked about this a little bit last week, combining resources and things like that. Like, don't be afraid to work with a partner. You don't know where to get the money,
right?
Don't be afraid to work with a partner.
Yeah. And I think those are a lot of good methods if you aren't moving into that property, right? If you already have your primary home, you're not trying to move, you got a kid, you want to stay where you're at, whatever the case may be, don't be afraid to jump in with somebody else, especially with somebody that you trust. Make sure you build in, you have a contract, everything is on the up and up. You don't just jump in, you make sure you do your homework on your partner just like you do your homework on a property, right? But you have that. You also have a home equity line of credit that you can get on your home that you're in.
I know a lot of people that do that. I know a lot of people that use their HELOC in order to have the buying power to get into their investment properties. And a HELOC, for those of you who may not know what a HELOC is, you said it's a home equity line of credit. You're using the equity in your personal home as collateral in order to achieve that buying power to go, and you don't have to use it for investment property. You can use it for a lot of different things.
Yeah, I think of it as like I'm doing a home
line of credit
property
for whatever.
Right. I think of like I want to redo my backyard. I'm going to take a home equity line of credit out and I'm going to improve my backyard.
Yeah. And you can use it for whatever, but it's one of the most powerful ways that you can get into investment property. Talk to your local lenders, real estate agents. Talk to them about a HELOC. Talk to them about the equity you have in your home. Become educated on this stuff so that you can have the buying power to get into these investments. Because, again, cash flow, equity, it's a great vehicle to improve your overall status. I know another thing, too, is like don't lock yourself up with your own debt.
I think that's really smart. You don't want to get in, like, live below your means a little bit. Like, if your mortgage on your home is the absolute most that you can spend. Like you are living paycheck to paycheck and you can't, like
house broke.
Right. Exactly. You're house broke.
Yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You want to be able, you could do that if you want to, but it's going to completely take away your ability to invest, not even just in real estate, but in other things. If you do not have that income when it's all said and done, after you've calculated the cost of you, we talked the cost of you on the last one. After you've calculated that and you don't have anything left over, you can invest.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so many lenders. We're going to have to get some lenders on here. I'm going to make some phone calls. I'm going to get some lenders on the podcast to talk to you guys. I've got some good friends who are lenders actually, so I'm glad we brought this up.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, so many lenders that are banks or whoever. The person that's, you don't know where to get the money. Banks is where you get the money. But how do you get the money? Your debt to income ratio has to be at a certain level to be approved for these types of loans. So yeah, don't lock yourself up with your own debt. I mean, for sure. So those are all great programs. FHA, USDA, VA, home buyer, first-time home buyer assistance. I mean, there's so many cool things. HELOCs are phenomenal.
You even touched on grants out there.
Yeah.
Like some places, I mean, your local area may offer even a grant for you to be able to buy a house.
Yeah. And it's something important. I know you touched on it, but something important that, the kickback and the argument I get back all the time is I can't afford a $200,000 property. I don't have $200,000. Well, if you're able to get an FHA loan, do you have $7,000?
Right.
Because that's 3.5%. Yeah, I've got $7,000. Okay, well then you can afford this $200,000 asset, this $200,000 investment, the property. Yeah. So people say I don't have $200,000. Well, do you have $7,000? Then you can get in, but you've got to know what you're talking about. You've got to know that these programs exist. You've got to think a little bit outside the box.
Yeah.
And you have to realize that your risk or your investment is only what you're putting down.
Right.
It's
That's kind of the misconception, right? That house isn't costing you $200,000 right now.
Cost you $7,000.
It's costing you whatever that down payment is. And if it's an investment loan, it's $50,000.
Yeah. Right.
But if you're going to live there, if it's going to be your primary residence and you can qualify for one of those other loans, it could be $7,000.
Yeah,
$7,000 is a whole lot more feasible for a lot of people than 50 or 200.
All my vets out there cost you nothing. Cost you nothing. VA loan is one of the most powerful purchasing tools that you can possibly ever imagine. Stay tuned, actually, and make sure that you do check us out on Twitter and Instagram, YouTube, because later this week, I'm going to be doing a little special segment, something that's very passionate to me for all the vets out there, and ways that you can use a VA loan to not just own a home with no money down, which is great, but how to really use it to acquire investment real estate. Because it's like if you just Google it, I'm telling you, they're going to tell you you can't. And I'm here to tell you you can, and I'm going to show you how. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you subscribe, follow us on all of our platforms. It's going to be fun. I'm going to really, really enjoy it. But
stuff.
We're not going to dive into that today because, I'd go on for a while. But I know, so Paul, a method that you and I both strongly believe in when it comes to like the mechanics of how you do this.
It's getting chilly.
That's nice. Dad joke. No, that's good though. So we're going to talk to you guys about the BUR method. So Paul, walk me through what is BUR? What is that?
So BUR stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat.
Yeah. I mean, that's simple. And a lot of people use this. Google it because there's a lot of good information out there.
I'll give a shout out to Bigger Pockets. They actually do a really good job. Not going a deep dive into the BUR method on their website.
Yeah, absolutely. They do. I mean, they do a great job. We've listened to them, and I mean, really go check them out. They're going to dive deeper into this than we're going to. At
least today.
Yeah. Stay tuned though. We'll see how. I guarantee we end up back on this at some point. But I'm going to make a little amendment to this because this is my personal strategy.
Yeah.
I believe in the BUR method as a whole, but I want to change it just a little bit, and I'm going to explain why. Buy your investment property, renovate it, because what renovating it does is in that process, you're adding the value to the property by renovating it. And then before you rent it, which is the next step in BUR, list that bitch for sale. I'm telling you. And here's why. When you list it for sale, you're accomplishing a lot. One, man, you might have a screaming deal come your way.
Right.
That you just can't turn down. And you just, instead of renting the property, you just flip the property for a huge, quick money.
And it sets you up for your next deal.
And you just got a big boost to your buying power for your next deal. But let's assume that you don't do that. What else does listing your house for sale for let's say 2 weeks, right? I mean, I think that's a good timeline. You give your property a chance to be appraised. Mm-hmm. You give your property a chance to see the market kind of interest. You give your property a chance to show its desire. So even if you don't sell it,
right,
you now have an appraisal, you now have some comps, you now kind of have evaluated the local market's interest in your specific property, but you still ain't going to sell. So what do? You use all of that information as justification to raise those rents.
Right.
I'm telling you, because you want a cash flow, your rent's got to be the right price. I mean, your money in is your money in to a large extent. Like the property needs what the property needs.
Right.
But you want a cash flow at a higher rate, raise those rents. Mm-hmm. We just told you a little bit ago that they've been going up 9% year over year. Don't be afraid to raise those rents as a real estate investor. Don't be afraid. But if you want to be able to justify that and actually pull the rents that you need to pull,
right? Not just say that I'm raising it.
List it for a couple of weeks. List it for a couple of weeks and see that interest, because now you've proven my house isn't worth this. It's worth this.
Right.
And because now it's worth more because of the renovation that I did, I've added value to it. Now I can raise those rents. So the rest of it I still believe in, though, to a T. After you raise those rents and you're cash flowing how you want to cash flow, refinance, cash out, refinance, pull that money back out and go do it again.
Yeah.
And do it again.
And again.
And again. Yeah. And it absolutely cycles and repeats itself. And that's how you build your portfolio. I'm not saying go buy 100 houses right now. I'm saying go buy one and then do this process and then do it again. That's what we plan on doing.
Right.
Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do, but my amendment to that is list it for sale for a couple of weeks, because I think that in your whole BUR method, kind of plan and strategy, it helps.
Yeah. So it's definitely a value.
Yeah.
There's definitely value there.
So, I mean, guys, there's so much. We were sitting at the table discussing, everything we wanted to talk about. And if we talked, if we spoke about everything that we wanted to talk about,
we'd be here all day.
We'd be here literally all day. So we're going to cut it right here. But tune back in. We are going to touch on real estate investing again as we go.
I guarantee
it's impossible that we're not going to. But to kick us out for today, Paul, we always like to do a final thought. So what's our final thought for today?
Final thought today, recapping the fact that what makes real estate investing kind of that unicorn, right? That it is at least the only one that I've found, the only investment that I've found that can replace both income and retirement, your equity, all in one asset.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the nice things about real estate is everyone's always going to need a place to live. You know what I mean? Things may change, and they don't need whatever other thing you're investing in. They may not. You say it's in collectibles. I talked about a Michael Jordan rookie basketball card. People don't always need basketball cards, but they got to have a place to live.
Yeah, absolutely. It's in my opinion, it's one of the most secure things that you can put your money into because of that principle.
And historically, it's always going to appreciate.
It's always going up.
It's always going to go up.
And on that point, so a principle that I believe in, and Someone argue me, because I'll win. Because it's true. It's true. You can't argue the truth. Appreciation in your assets offsets the inflation in our world economy.
Right.
Right now, you see. I mean, Paul and I, we both drive diesel trucks, and we're feeling it. I'm not gonna lie to you. We feel it. But that inflation that everyone's feeling, well, if I own a bunch of appreciating assets, it's going to largely, if not entirely, offset that inflation rate.
Right.
Because as inflation goes up, our appreciation goes up. So again, we're trying to help you guys even the odds in your life. Real estate investment is an absolutely phenomenal vehicle in order to become financially free and to help even the odds in your life. So tune in next week, guys. This is, again, thank you so much for tuning in. But next week, we are not done.
Excited for next week.
Continuing the mini series, and Paul's going to be driving us in this one. Largely, I know. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this today too. He's already looking forward to next week.
A little fire.
So what are we talking about next week, Paul?
So we're going to talk about the value and how to invest in your relationships.
Yeah.
And that's everybody in your life. I mean, it could be significant others like our spouses, but it's also friends, it's coworkers. Yeah. So I can't wait. I'm excited about it. Like I said, it's definitely an area that lights a fire underneath me a little bit. So
relationships are important, and it's important in not just your life, but they're also important in business.
Yeah.
And we're going to correlate all that together. So again, guys, thank you so much for tuning into ETO. This is Even the Odds. Make sure you click on that Linktree link in our description.
Follow us everywhere.
Until next week, guys. Thank you so much. See you then.
We're out.